Trump got obliterated yesterday, he got obliterated today, and he's gonna be obliterated tomorrow. Like, he is gone, he is finished, he is done. With all of these Epstein files coming forward, people can see for who Trump really is. This is one of those videos, but before I play the clip, if you're not subscribed to my channel, consider subscribing. Like this video, share this video, have a listen.
This is actually the plaintiff in this case. Here's what he says he wants to see.
They know exactly what they took from us, when and why and how much, and they can just reverse the gears and send it back to us. It's our money. They took it unlawfully. They have to return it. And I'm not crying for them that they find it inconvenient.
They said they spent $10 million paying Trump's tariffs that we now know are illegal. And on top of that, just to circle back to what we were talking about, the CBO, this is one of many reports on this, but the CBO just recently said U.S. businesses will absorb 30% of the import price increases using their profit margins. The remaining 70% will be passed through to consumers by raising prices. So the net effect of the tariffs will be to raise consumer prices by the full portion of the cost of the tariffs borne domestically, 95%. So look, at the end of the day, he's a business owner. You can't tell him he didn't bear the cost of tariffs. He wrote the check.
Well, which is it? You said all of it was passed through the consumers. You said that most of it was absorbed by some of the companies. It sounds like maybe it might be a little bit of both. I mean, how you refund this? I have no idea. I mean, this is a total mess. You're talking about massive amount of money.
How do they charge it?
And
they can refund what they charge.
I guess, but if you want to go into the treasury,
I don't think that it's that easy. It's not like cut and dry, as Abby is saying here. You cannot just refund people, because you have to then verify whether they actually paid, and if the payment did go through, and which card to use. I mean, we know, a lot of us have experience with this accounting stuff, so it's not easy, and we're talking here about millions and millions and millions of dollars.
And start writing checks on this. It feels, and the court acknowledged that it feels like it's going to be a bit of a mess. I assume there'll be massive litigation about this over the next couple of years. I will just say, politically today, it was a big breaking news day, but I just think we ought to acknowledge something. This is a properly functioning government today. The President of the United States, the head of the executive branch, made a policy decision. The Supreme Court, that renders legal opinions about these kinds of decisions, made a decision. They said you can't do that. The President of the United States said, okay, I agree, and I will acknowledge your decision. I'm going to use a different statute to try to do what I want to do. This is properly functioning government. And I'll tell you one more thing. For every Democrat and every media person that has gone on for the last year or two about how the Supreme Court is a wholly owned subsidiary of Donald Trump, that it's not independent, that it does whatever he says to do, obviously that narrative was obliterated today. So to me, I thought the ruling was sound. I think the president is sound to try other statutes. And I think the narratives about the court not being independent and the president not obeying the court were totally blown up today.
That was a very charitable explanation of what took place today, Scott.
Well, I mean, Scott Jennings, this guy, right? He normally is not the person who would talk the way he just talked about Donald Trump. He's a supporter of Donald Trump, but I mean, in certain matters, obviously not in everything. What I have observed, maybe you have a different experience, but today he's like Trump got obliterated today. Unbelievable.
You should be paid a lot of money from the Trump administration for helping to...
Oh, no, I get paid a lot of money here.
Well, I know you do, and in other places too, but you should be paid by the Trump administration for what you said, because the reality is that the president didn't just accept the ruling like you said he did.
Yes, he did.
He got up there in the press conference today, and he attacked the U.S. Supreme Court justices. He said that they should be embarrassed for their families for making a decision that stood up to him. He attacked them and said they were disloyal and unpatriotic. He said they were disloyal to the Constitution even. That's more than disagreement. That's irresponsible rhetoric. And the problem is, Scott, even though today the Supreme Court did the right thing, according to everyone here at the table, apparently, except maybe you, Anthony. The truth is that this is the first major decision where they have actually disagreed with the president on any of his priorities. So yes, they got one right, but that doesn't negate everything else that they've done. Donald Trump doesn't like to govern. Donald Trump likes to rule by decree, and the Supreme Court finally stood in and said you can't do that on this one issue.
Quick, if I could, I mean, the reason there's not national law on the streets in Chicago right now is the Supreme Court blocked that too, and I think Trump's about to go on a bit of a losing streak with the court. I mean, between today, he's going to lose birthright, I believe, birthright citizenship eventually. I also think he's going to lose his effort to fire Lisa Cook off the Fed. So I think, to Scott's point, I think the narrative that the Supreme Court is automatically in Trump's pocket and always has been, I think it is overblown, and I think they're disproving that now and will continue over the next several months.
Yeah, it's interesting because they do push the envelope on this stuff, and they could easily have, to your point, I mean, there are all kinds of different statutory authorities for the president to do all kinds of different things, and he's going to use some of them now. And they could have tried to do it that way. I don't know. Do you have a theory? I have a theory, but I'm curious if you have a theory about why the Trump administration decided to do it this particular way.
Yeah, I have a bit of a theory, which is that of all of the trade authorities that exist to support the president's agenda, this is the one that has the least set of requirements attached to it. It is the one where, with a stroke of a pen on any particular day, and in fact, we've seen it on 60 days so far in this Trump administration, you are able to change tariff rates because you see a commercial you don't like, or your adversary or ally does something that you don't agree with. And I think the challenge with all of these other approaches, some of which would actually require the president to go to Congress and try to legislate the trade.
She's talking about Trump's decision to tariff Canada because he did not like aid he saw from Canada. So what he does, Trump, he imposes tariff, like I think it was like 50% or 100%. I don't remember the exact percentage, but again, it is his whims, his desires, his ego. If you go against me personally, I'm gonna tariff you, I'm gonna ruin your economy. But of course, in the process, he has done enough damage to his own country, United States.
Agenda, as has always been done historically, don't afford you that same flexibility. And I think that flexibility might sound like it's attractive, but actually, Scott, to your point, I think today you did see government function and our institutions function the way they're supposed to. But something that you also saw was the reintroduction of incredible volatility into our trade policy. What are businesses supposed to be planning for? What is the tariff rate likely to be next week, next month, 6 months from now? How do consumers plan for that? And how do our allies think about us in negotiations when it's not at all clear what authorities or the extent to which they're legally viable pathways to effectuate some of these policies?
I think the last point you made is one of the most important for how the president moves forward here. Because if you talk to him about this, beyond just the economics, he believes these tariffs and the ability for him to unilaterally do it is his biggest diplomatic tool. He thinks that it's been huge in trade negotiations. He thinks it's helped him solve some of these peace agreements. He thinks it gives the American president, in any room that that person is in, this massive cudgel against other countries to extract outcomes that we want on a number of fronts. So I think the last point you made is very true.
And he's wrong about that.
Why is he wrong about
Chief Justice Roberts said this. The president asserts the extraordinary power to unilaterally impose tariffs of unlimited amount, duration, and scope. In light of the breadth, history, and constitutional context of that asserted authority, he must identify clear congressional authorization to exercise it. He's pretty crystal clear. That's the scope. There's a reason that, according to Chief Justice Gorsuch and 6 other Supreme Court justices, Congress does not give that power to the president. And it has to do with the fact that, as we just discussed, tariffs, like taxes, cost people money. Money comes out of their pockets and goes to the Treasury. And that is a power that belongs to Congress. And if Congress, which is controlled by the president's party, supports the president's agenda, and if these tariffs are so popular and such a key to economic prosperity, 2 questions. Why are they so unpopular? Why do Americans say 56% say they hurt the economy? And why won't Congress just codify them?
So what I would say that, first of all, Article 2, Section 2 of the Constitution gives the president the right to work on international affairs, manage international affairs, and trade. Period. Hard stop. He has the right to implement tariffs. That's not the question here. The question is IEPA. To loop back to the benefits that we've seen.
Did you hear anything that I just read?
I did, but it's actually
listen,
not
I understand what you're saying.
They did just rule on the narrow statute.
Just a second. I understand the context of what you're saying in that they're ruling on IEPA. But what Chief Justice Roberts is saying is that what Trump is asserting is that using national security as a justification to impose tariffs of any size, scope, and duration is not constitutional. He says that very clearly here.
That is IEPA. That's fine.
Okay. So we're in agreement on that. The president has limited authorities that are delegated by Congress to impose trade restrictions under certain circumstances, under other statutes. But it is not broad, it is not unlimited, and it is not forever. Correct?
No, that's actually not correct. He has congressional authority to issue and implement tariffs under Section 122.
Under limited
They
under
each have
limited
their own limits
scope that
and
is
their own
delegated by Congress. That is the only
Section
point that I'm making.
232, for example, gives him the ability to put tariffs at 50% across the board.
The only point that I'm making is
they're
the only
substantial.
point that I'm making is that Congress determines what powers he has in those.
They've already determined that as well.
Anthony, you're making the argument that might have been okay yesterday, but today it lost, so it's not the law anymore.
He's saying that there's statutes that already exist.
Oh,
The president's going to pivot to other statutory authorities.
Yes.
Now, if he does
those are narrow.
maybe somebody ends up challenging that, and they
Let me make
scope because the
You
statutes already
have to
exist.
actually meet the requirements of those statutes.
Right.
He can't just say, I want 50% tariffs on the whole world. I'm just going to put it under this statute. If he could have done that, he would have done it. But he didn't. Those statutes are narrow. He has to meet certain requirements, and those requirements are dictated by Congress, not by the president.
Think about it this way.
So that's the only point.
Absolutely. I mean, Trump is obliterated everywhere across the board, and people can see for who he is. He doesn't have the authority to implement or to impose these tariffs on whomever he wants. There has to be a legitimate reason, even though he will be the final person to sign off on it, but he doesn't have the authority to just go ahead and do whatever he wants when it comes to the tariffs.